Today, we're gonna cover the new hardware wallet called Ryder One. Now, I just came across this article from a few days ago, and actually, billionaire Tim Draper leads a $3.2 million seed round for Ryder One. So if you don't know who Tim Draper is, I mean, basically he's a really big investor from the US. You can see his investments include Hotmail, Skype, Tesla, SpaceX. I mean, what else do we have here? Ring, Twitter, Coinbase, and Robinhood, Twitch. I mean, that is a pretty good list. So if you land investment from this guy, I mean, chances are he's going to hook you up with some mighty connections that will get you like a huge head start. And it was really this intro video by Ryder One that they just released 2 days ago, and I thought it would be cool if we could just watch it together. Very artsy so far. Okay. It feels a lot like SafePal. Like SafePal has a video just like this. So you tap it to go. It has these little recovery badges, I guess you can call it. Okay, so I think it's a good idea that we just get a bit of the background into how Ryder One started. They actually launched a Kickstarter. I believe they started in 2023. They really didn't become big until they supported Solana. So you can see 512 backers pledged 147,000 Singapore dollars. It is about 114,000 US dollars. So it was enough for them to get these devices made, get the prototypes done. This is the guy I talked to. He was in Stacks before, and then he basically was all in community. So Marvin is the one who he worked on OpenSea, Trust Machines, and Stacks, so they got connected that way, and he's basically on the dev side. And then you have Julian. So Julian's been working in consumer hardware, which is excellent. Also in Shenzhen, Hong Kong, and Singapore for mass production. You know, it's pretty ballsy to put all your names on here after everything that happened to Ledger. Do we not forget that Ledger's was it CFO or CEO was kidnapped and held for ransom? They messed up his finger or something. It is a risk to put your name out here, but I love it because people want to know what are the names and who are the names behind the people that we trust. You don't see this on a lot of hardware wallets, so mad respect here. If you're looking for a new hardware wallet, be sure to check out aldaroncrypto.com for reviews, ratings, and discounts, or check the description below. All of their manufacturing is done from Shenzhen, China, which is, you know, just across the border from Hong Kong. Now, a lot of the big brands are actually not made in China. I think Tangem is, but Ledger's made in Vietnam. I think Trezor might actually be made in Czech Republic or somewhere over there. Taking a look at Ryder One's website, it's nice, it's clean. As you scroll down, you can see some of the investors, and the device itself uses an NFC chip, just as we've seen in Tangem and all the other cards that are basically copying Tangem or using Tangem cards and adding a screen to it. I think this is a version of it that is unique in its own right. And compatibility wise, remember it's using NFC, so that means it's phone only. We can't use it with a desktop app. And something that interests me is this recovery contacts part, but as we'll see, I can't find any information about how to set up recovery contacts. An OLED display, which is quite normal, but something I always question is like nothing is technically offline because the blockchain is not offline. The blockchain is always on. So by offline, you mean you're not connecting the device to the internet. That is true. And something that's really cool that's been added on this device is that it will light up on the sides, probably with like LEDs or something, and turn red with the alerts. Again, I feel like I'm criticizing everything, but I'm not sure red is the right color because red makes me think panic, something's wrong. Like when I'm approving this transaction, oh no, it's red. Why wouldn't it be green? Because green means go. Green means yes, it's good. Or this color could be changed by users. That's also cool. And what makes me happy here is that it's using an EAL6+ secure element chip. As for open sourcing, they do have a GitHub and some things listed here. There's about 16 repositories, but it seems like their app is closed source so far. And also the secure element is closed source. So it is not 100% open source at this point. We get to the price and I'm not the biggest fan of the cost here. I understand what they're doing by trying to, you know, sell themselves as a premium hardware wallet. But if you look at Ledger, Trezor, and Tangem, the trio of the top hardware wallets in the space, they all have a version of their hardware wallet that costs under $100. That's huge for getting in new users. Then you have different models that sell higher or lower. But for this price and for this new of a product, I'm not saying we don't trust the team, but we haven't seen if there's any security issues. We don't know if there's any audits on the device, and no other third parties have done extra research. So if we just scroll down a little bit, you can see all that comes in this device is the hardware wallet itself, one recovery tag, a wireless charger, which is pretty cool, and a travel pouch. Now, if you want to price the device this highly, honestly, you should have at least 4 to 6 of these recovery tags included in the box. Because if you think about it, they're kind of contradicting themselves. They want you to have these tags to back up the device, right? But they only give you one to back it up. So at best, you have a 1 of 2 multi-sig. So you have the device, okay, maybe 2 of 3 if you include the phone. So you have the phone recovery, you have the tag recovery, and then I'm assuming you have the hardware wallet recovery. But then if you scroll a little further down, they're selling the recovery tags for $29 each. $29 each. That's not a small, small bit of change. I personally know from my time living in Hong Kong and seeing other people order stuff, such as NFC cards, for example. I know someone who was able to get these little NFC cards that are made of metal. They're actually made of metal. And these cards, I think, were like $1 or less each. Think about that. $1 or less each. And here we're charging $15 for 2. If this is made of plastic, that could be like 1,000% markup. And also, these should be in different colors. Why can't we pick, a Bitcoin version with a Bitcoin logo on it? It makes so much sense if Bitcoin was plastered there or Solana was plastered there. People would pay for these, maybe pay more if you collabed with brands too. So just food for thought, maybe. And these tags specifically last 25 years. So that's the same as Tangem's promise, where they're giving 25 years for the cards. But do note that this device itself will only last 3 to 5 years. I can almost guarantee you that the battery or the screen will die. And this comes directly from Ledger's website. Ledger itself says screen devices will die within this time. I had my Nano S for about 5 years. The screen completely died. There is no way to save a screen device from the battery deteriorating over time. And here we get these nice little GIFs about how to use Ryder One. So essentially you just tapping the recovery tag to set it up and back it up. My concern with these little pins is that they are extremely small. On top of that are they made of plastic or metal? Because if they're not made of metal, they will easily get destroyed. And then we go to send and it looks exactly like Tangem. The same little pop-up that Tangem uses to scan is showing in the UI. You're tapping your phone on NFC, but what's better about it than Tangem is you have a screen to confirm the transaction on it first, because you want to check on both screens that they match. If they don't match, that's really bad. And then they show us the recovery. So if something happens and you lose the device, you can use these little chips to recover the main source. And again, they're pushing the no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi, no USB. In my experience, I've been using encrypted Bluetooth on Ledger devices and some other devices. I've never had an issue because the new Bluetooth is amazing that it can encrypt the data, and it's only one-way data. So it's kind of like a marketing push. If you can't prove to me that technology is bad, then why should I believe that your product is better? And getting into some supported coins, it's interesting they put Bitcoin and Solana second. You never see that. Solana is ahead of Ethereum, then BSC, Stacks. If you look further into the docs, the FAQs, we can see there's only 1,000 coins supported. So for example, SafePal supports over 30,000. I'd say Ledger's between 5,000 to 10,000, and then we have all bits in between there. So this is definitely on the lower end for token support, and I don't know if they even have NFT support. Maybe it's using Wallet Connect, but if it's integrated, I'm not sure. Their pitch towards why seed phrases don't work. To solve this issue, they've set up this backup process that does not require seed phrase. And to hit home on some of these recovery scenarios we talked about earlier, they have a nice little handy diagram here. So you can recover with the recovery tag and the phone, which was the question we had. 2 recovery tags. But again, this is kind of frustrating because we're only given 1. Just give me 2 recovery tags. So out of the box for $200, I can get the full experience. And then if you release limited edition little tags, different types of tags, colors, etc., then people might want to buy them to like flash them around, to give them to your friend, like, hey, hold on to this. Another point I have to make is I love the idea of multisig. Don't get me wrong, like seed phrases are a problem in themselves, but how can we give recovery tags to other people? I understand if you're living where you're from. So if you're from your hometown and you have like your hometown friends and your family, you could just like literally hide one in your parents' house, your friend's house, and they might never know. That could be a way to do it. But for me personally, and I think there are a lot of people who might have a similar scenario, they live in a city. So I live in a foreign city where I'm not around family or friends that would be willing to take in one of these tags. So right off the bat, I can't use the tags to store them anywhere else with people. The second scenario would be for me to rent a bank deposit box, like a safety deposit box, or have another location in the city that I can do this. But that's really expensive and not possible for me. And Ryder One really isn't the first company to think of this. We have 3 Tangem cards here. Should I have all 3 Tangem cards in my house? Why do I have 3 Tangem cards? Because they thought that I would be giving these away or putting them somewhere else, potentially losing them. But think about it. These are the same exact thing as a seed phrase. Why? Because they sit in the box together all day long. The only difference is that if someone came into my house, stole my cards, they would need my access code. One step further in protection. So I think logically speaking, most people, including myself, even though I preach some of this stuff, you know, I still believe in seed phrases. People are lazy. People don't want to go through this effort, or they're just incapable of doing it. Like my scenario where I physically don't have other places to put these cards to spread them out. I could spread them out throughout my house, but is that multisig? Apparently you can use 2 phones. I think most people don't have 2 phones, but it's interesting to have this option nonetheless. Then you can have 1 recovery tag plus 2 friends, 1 phone plus 2 friends, or just 4 friends. Okay, think about this. So the 2 friends is remotely possible. If you can convince 2 friends to download this app, to not own the product, and to hold their information there, well done. But logistically speaking, the chances of getting 4 friends to download this crypto app, nowhere on their website does it say how recovery contacts can be set up. And I think this is the biggest question that I have and other people will have. Do they need to download the app? Can they just use email recovery? I think the idea here is great and the intention is there, but it's hard enough to get people to hold my house key, let alone to download a random app for me, especially a crypto app, when most of my friends think crypto's a scam, and then to put their information onto this device or onto this app, is a bit of a push. So if it is true and you need friends to download the app just to do recovery contacts, I think that's a huge barrier to entry, and maybe there can be some other way to get people to confirm their identity or their part in this without actually needing to download and use the app. And then to get them all together, we're getting them all together. Do they all need to tap a button at the same time? Like they're all matching buttons? Or is it like, I agree to confirm this friend? Again, it's just logistically so difficult. And it's cool to give the option. Of everything that we've talked about so far, what we can come up with is that it's great to see people just trying to push the boundary, because this makes other companies as well compete in interesting ways. Like just look at Ledger with their Ledger recovery key. So the Ledger recovery key, you tap it with NFC on the back of your Ledger device, and then when you tap it, I haven't used it yet, when you tap it, it has a secure element chip that backs up the device on another one. So if you wanted to take this backup, you could put it somewhere else. So you have this and you have this. And to add to all this, do they let users write down the seed phrase? Because if I wasn't allowed to write down the seed phrase, like I didn't have the option, I would feel less inclined to use the device. And I think a lot of OGs would feel the same way as well. Lastly, just check their socials for any updates. You can see they're talking about the $3.2 million seed round, different spaces they're having, and just see how consistently they're posting. So it'll be interesting to see where Ryder One is going with this next. We want to see more testing on their security models, and we also want to see user reactions to the device. As usual, thanks for watching and catch you in the next one.